All right. Hey, everybody. Very grateful to be here amongst so many friends and colleagues at Social Innovation Summit. I'm going to talk about Lyft, but really I'm going to talk about the why. The why is what makes Lyft unique, but the why is what makes all of us unique. I don't know about you, but I feel like I spend so much time doing, that I don't stop and take a breath and think about the human being. And that's also asking ourselves why we do what we do. So for me, it starts with my grandparents. On the left is Paul and Beatrice. Paul came to the US at the turn of the century. His father, my great-grandfather, was a lamplighter in Milwaukee, and they ended up in Detroit. Beatrice came a few years later through Ellis Island and ended up in Detroit. Then you have Natan and Geula. Geula's father in the 1930s moved the family from Poland to what's now Israel. Natan came a few years later and lost a lot of his family in the Holocaust. What I learned from my grandparents was what was right and what was wrong, and standing up for what I believed was right. Also getting engaged in your community, and also the notion of having civic dialogues with people who you may not always agree with. I also learned the importance of multimodal transportation. And vehicles with good hair that matched my hair a little bit. And I zipped around on these vehicles to the mean streets of Irvine. And I actually was a waiter at the Cheesecake Factory in the Irvine Spectrum. I don't know how many people have been there. But I firmly believe that having this service job actually taught me these cross-functional skills, how to work with bartenders and hosts and runners and people who are plating cheesecake. It was like this foundational skill set that really helped me throughout my career. I did grow up surfing with an appreciation of the environment, and parking lots looked like that, then they looked like that, and then it was like that. Who here remembers the Orange Crush? Is anyone here from Orange County? The Orange Crush was crazy. It was 14 different bridges, 3 different highways all coming together, just standstill traffic. This is what I grew up in. This is what you all were probably in this morning. But this is an issue all around the world. We know this. And to me, this was totally unacceptable. So that's why I went to Michigan. No, I'm actually kidding. I went to Michigan because my dad basically said, he said, Mike, you can apply to any school you want. The only one I'm going to help you pay for is Michigan. Which was incredible, by the way. I don't know if we have any Michigan alumni here, but go blue. Whew. It was an amazing experience. And then I went on to become a corporate lawyer. And in 2008, I found myself in this position where I thought we were at this crossroads in history. I was living in Sydney at the time, practicing law. And when I heard Obama speak, I said, this is a person who has a vision for the world that I agree with. And I couldn't be on the sidelines. So I got a one-way ticket from Sydney to Greensboro, North Carolina. I joined the Obama campaign in the primaries. And then I came into the Obama administration, and it was the first time in my life I felt like I was advocating for something greater than myself, where there was this purpose and mission that was incredible. And I learned about policy through the lens of the private sector. And I learned what it was like to do this values-based kind of work. So when it was time for me to transition out of the Obama administration, people said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Lyft. They were like, what? That pink mustache, fist bump company? Why are you going there? And when I came to Lyft, unbeknownst to me, I wasn't even there to really interview, I felt this vibe that felt like the Obama 08 campaign, this collaboration where people really cared about each other. And then that bled into how we cared about riders and drivers, and even how we negotiated with policymakers. It was sort of like this ethos for me of being from the Midwest, being very kind, but also that punchiness of being Israeli. But that was the style that we had at Lyft. Because the values at Lyft came from, we heard about Logan and the rides that we did, Zimride. This was the predecessor to Lyft. And the values weren't just words. This was really the ethos that we had. The bottom paragraph, we Zimride because we agree on music, because we disagree about politics, because we care about the environment, because we care about our wallets, but most of all because life is better when you share the ride. They answered the why before they even launched Lyft. And that carried on through my time there when I was able to work on various policy matters. And a few years back, they asked me to take over the social impact team, to create a social impact team. And for me, I had to ask myself why, because that wasn't my trajectory. That wasn't what I had envisioned. But what I realized was that impact was embedded into our mission, improving people's lives with the world's best transportation. And we had an opportunity to reimagine social impact, rooted in policy, with authentic action, being able to take stances and shine a light on different populations. So I jumped in, and I was able to work on a lot of different programs, including talking about people like Massa. Why Massa? Massa came to Los Angeles from Iran. She is an aspiring singer, and she's a Lyft driver. Massa is me, Massa is you, Massa is my grandparents. She's our riders, she's our drivers, she's our employees. So yes, when our community is threatened, we will take a stand. We will speak out against the Muslim ban. When families are being separated, we will partner with 50 different nonprofits to provide rides for legal appointments. We will bring the ACLU on as a Roundup Donate partner and sign on to amicus briefs, because telling Massa's story is telling our story. Why LGBTQ? Because in the middle, on the left, is Nicole. Nicole is a recruiting coordinator at Lyft and part of our transgender community at a time when transgender rights are under threat by executive orders and rules. And for us, we want to create this inclusive environment of respect and dignity in the car and in our communities, but that has to start in our workplace. And that's why we have gender-neutral bathrooms, and that's why we take stances on the slate of hate bills in places like Tennessee. It's also why we worked with Nicole and our Lyft Out group to bring pronouns into our app, because two is too few. It's 2019, we got to get with the program. If we are going to create that inclusive environment, we have to have an environment for everyone. Why? You can clap. Why grocery access? 23.5 million Americans are living in food deserts. And in DC, in wards 7 and 8, they're also living in transportation deserts. So we partnered with Martha's Table to provide reduced rides for people to get to the grocery store. And people like Latinique, whose 2 kids were just diagnosed with diabetes, now for the first time had access to healthy food. Why is this important? Because 4th graders told us so. 4th graders also told us that we need to expand the program. So we heard you, 4th graders, and we expanded this program now across the US, and we're now looking to be working with foundations to scale this in a really sustainable manner. Why is Chicago so cold? No, I'm kidding. But why would we get involved in the polar vortex? And the reason is because of our drivers. Years ago, we looked to our drivers in the wake of Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, and they really wanted to do something. They wanted to take action. So we created this relief rides we're now calling Wheels for All program, where we knew in these times of natural disasters, transportation is a real barrier. We also heard from our riders who were so thankful that their parents and grandparents could get rides to warming huts and to hospitals during the polar vortex. And just last week, we were able to respond to the floods in Dayton for people to get to clean water shelters. And this is the kind of ethos that we carry through into our partnership with United Way, which we announced last year, and their 2-on-1 program, where we help them get rides for low-income seniors to medical appointments and veterans to job interviews. We're really proud to have expanded that program and working with our social enterprise team to work with nonprofits all across the country who are focused on transportation as access. And we also know that climate change is real, so there's going to be more natural disasters, unfortunately, and we stand ready to act. Nature. Why is sustainability so hard for people to understand? Seriously, I understand for us carbon neutrality is a bit tough. So we offset all the carbon emissions of all of our rides. So last year, we paid to offset over 2 million metric tons of carbon. That's the equivalent of 2.4 million acres of forests. And look, I understand it's hard for people to get their heads wrapped around, but we don't care, because transportation is one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases, and we know we can have an impact. So it's not just going to be about carbon neutrality. We're investing in electric vehicles, we're integrating our app into public transit, and we're investing in bikes and scooters, because we can make more livable cities. We had a little bit of an event this year. We went public. And at the time of going public, we had a long discussion around this is our chance to show that being a force for public good is also good for business. When you lead with values, you create value. The more you focus on impact, the more you grow, and the more you grow, the more impact you can have. So that's why when we went public, we launched Lyft CityWorks. This is a grassroots effort where we're going into cities, meeting with riders, drivers, civic activists to hear about their issues. We had a listening session in LA this morning, and there's 3 components to Lyft CityWorks. The first is providing transportation. You heard about that, the idea of access and equity and equality in transportation. The second is developing transportation infrastructure. And this is really about us going in and building bikes and scooters in areas where traditionally there's never been bikes and scooters infrastructure. And the third is on creating a clean energy future, and you heard that spiel on sustainability just now. So, people ask me, Masserman, that's what a lot of people call me. You've been at Lyft 5 years now. That's like 100 years in Silicon Valley terms. They say, why are you still there? And I say, I love my team, the people are amazing, the work is great, and we have great snacks. But here's why. Okay, why am I showing you a cartoon picture of my brothers and I surfing with the turtle? Because we wrote a book last summer called Chasing the Sun. It's about Tiki the turtle on an adventure around an island in search of the sun. And what I'll leave you with is this. Life is this journey. We're on this one magical ride together. Let's have some fun. Let's do really, really serious work and not take ourselves too seriously. You know my why. It's because values matter. They always have and they always will. What's your why? Thanks.